And he summoned the 12 and began to send them out in pairs. And he was giving them authority over the unclean spirits. Mark chapter 6, verse 7.
In this lesson, we're going to make several important distinctions for you. It's crucial in your relationship both with God and within your family that you clearly understand these truths.
In a previous lesson, we emphasized how important your understanding of authority is. Remember, if you have trouble with authority, you have trouble with God.
4 key facets identify the position of authority: the privilege and responsibility to include or exclude, and to commend or correct.
Let's review these again. Serving in biblical authority in the home can be defined as the privilege and responsibility to include those people or things that contribute to peace and harmony in your home, and to exclude those people or things that rob your home of peace and harmony.
Authority is also the privilege and responsibility to commend those actions and attitudes that contribute to the peace and harmony of your home, and to correct those actions and attitudes that rob the peace and harmony of your home. Each of these 4 biblical requirements, to include or exclude, to commend or correct, must be carried out as appropriate by husbands and fathers.
To neglect any of these is sin. Not only will you have trouble with God, but you'll raise rebellious and insolent children.
We have a few questions on the enactment of authority for you to consider. If you are serving an authority in your home, how are you doing in including, excluding, commending, and correcting? In which areas are you slack? Ask your family for their input.
Discuss with your family the level of peace in your home. Are there things that rob your home of peace? If there are, what needs to be excluded or corrected?
Ask your family and close friends in the faith to evaluate your enactment of authority.
Are you a servant leader who upholds God and administers correction in a loving manner? Or are you an authoritarian who dominates and controls?
The difference between authority and leadership.
This is a good time to make an important biblical distinction. Authority and leadership are not the same.
Authority in the home, as well as in the faith community, is limited to men. Yet both men and women can be leaders.
Among God's people, all men who have authority should be able to lead, but not all leaders have authority.
Biblically, both men and women are capable of leading. Yet, authority is reserved for men within their jurisdictional boundaries, the specific arena in which their authority is exercised.
Let's clarify the difference between authority and leadership. The person in authority has the privilege and responsibility to include or exclude, and to commend or correct.
The person who leads is delegated responsibilities commensurate with the task he or she is given. But the final responsibility for including and excluding remains with the person in authority. The chain of delegated responsibility.
It's obvious that within your home or faith community, government, or place of employment, that no one person can carry out all the requirements their position calls for. This is where delegated responsibility comes in. Now that we've separated authority from leadership, let's see how someone in authority delegates responsibility.
A football coach has full authority over his team. He decides who to include or who to remove from the roster. He also commends and corrects the players and rewards their efforts by giving them more playing time. Yet, the coach's authority over his players extends only for the season. It's limited to those areas of their lives which affect their playing ability. These are the jurisdictional boundaries of the coach.
The coach appoints players with good leadership skills to be team captains. He delegates to them certain responsibilities within his realm of authority, and this is called delegated responsibility.
Delegated responsibility is the limited leadership a person in authority entrusts to those who assist him in his responsibilities.
Delegated responsibility could be on a team, or in the workplace, or even in the home.
The level of responsibility that's delegated matches the task the helper accomplishes through cooperating with others.
The conditions and limits of delegated responsibility are normally made clear beforehand so the person doesn't overstep his or her bounds.
And his or her leadership role is made known to the others who are involved, so they'll recognize that. They'll know that they're expected to respond in the same way they would to the coach, or the boss, or the head of the household.
Going back to our football example, within his sphere of delegated responsibility, the football captain may lead the team, but he has no authority over the players. He can commend good players and correct bad ones, but he can't remove anyone from the team.
The home front is another arena in which responsibility is delegated. A husband's headship is in the biblical pattern of the relational headship of Jesus with his Father. The head of the Messiah is God. A wife is delegated responsibility in her role of raising their children, but the final authority within the home rests with the father. He's the one who must render account to God to bring their children up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord.
The chain of responsibility goes from a father, through a mother, down through each child to the youngest. The chain of responsibility flows down through the family. Parents who don't exercise the chain of responsibility within their home end up with confusion, manipulation, and rebellion in their family.
If the parents are away, responsibility for the children can be delegated to the oldest child, if he or she is old enough.
Say a couple wants to go out for the evening. The parents will verify that the oldest child or a babysitter clearly understands their delegated responsibilities.
They'll make sure the oldest child or sitter knows the parameters for correcting behavior, for acceptable activities for the kids, and even what discipline is appropriate.
But authority over the children always rests with the parents, and ultimately the father.
Wise parents make sure their kids are present when they delegate this responsibility to the oldest child or the sitter, so the younger ones will be more inclined to cooperate.
If the children know their behavior may be reported to the parents, then the leadership of the oldest child or the sitter carries greater weight.
It's also helpful for the peace within the home if the firstborn child is raised with a sense of being trained as a leader among his or her siblings.
That means he or she is guided to both model obedience as well as to help the younger children along the right path.
In the Old Testament in particular, the role of the firstborn carried a special responsibility level. The oldest male would be the first in line to lead the extended family when his father died.
For example, when the patriarch Jacob lay dying, he called his sons together to bless each one. The eldest was addressed first. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might and the beginning of my strength, preeminent in dignity and preeminent in power. Genesis chapter 49, verse 3.
Yet because of his grievous sin, Jacob's eldest son was disqualified from the honor that would have been due him.
That's a point well taken for today's firstborn. With privilege comes responsibility.
In homes in which the chain of delegated responsibility is made clear and respected, peace abides. The children are in position to learn humility, servanthood, and submission.
In contrast, consider when there's no clear understanding of the chain of God-given authority, and when responsibility is not openly delegated and upheld.
You end up with needless apprehension, hurt feelings, and bickering.
Answer these questions with those who are in your household. Do you understand the importance of delegated responsibility?
Are the parameters of delegation and how they're to be enacted clear in your household? Yes or no? If no, what do you need to clarify?
When you're delegated responsibility at home, at work, or in other contexts, do you adequately and loyally represent your authority person?
Do you ever find yourself undermining the person in authority in order to make yourself look good? Give an example.